Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasura Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jasura Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanajari Jamuna Tira Vanajari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasura Nandana Vrajajana Ranjano Jasura Nandana Vrajajana Ranjano Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Sri Radha Madhava ki jai, Sri Radha Giridhari ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Jaja Shodhara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Jaja Shodhara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Saranta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Sama Vira Bhakti ki jai. Go Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, assembled devotees. All glories, assembled devotees. All glories, Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Krishna. So, This morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th canto. It's chapter 14. We're starting a new chapter, right? Well, I guess so. Yeah, 1 through 4. I'm supposed to speak on 4. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is the chapter summary. It's the system of universal management. How are they doing? They're doing pretty good with the management of this universe, do you think? This chapter describes the duties allotted to Manu by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You know, I could have looked it up, and maybe one of you know where this is, but there's a description of what you, if something's a Purana, there's like 10 different topics that are described in a Purana, and one of them is the Manus, because it's the history of the universe and so on. So, all the Manus, as well as their sons, the sages, the demigods, and the Indras, act under the orders of various incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the end of every Chatur Yuga, consisting of Satya Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Kali Yuga, the sages acting under the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead distribute the Vedic knowledge and thus reinstate eternal religious principles. Manu's duty is to reestablish the system of religion. Manu's sons execute Manu's orders, and thus the entire universe is maintained by Manu and his descendants. The Indras are various rulers of the heavenly planets. Assisted by the demigods, they rule the 3 worlds. The Supreme Personality of Godhead also appears as incarnations in different yugas. He appears as Sanaka, Sanatan, Jagyavoka, Dattatreya, and others, and thus he gives instructions in spiritual knowledge, prescribed duties, principles of mystic yoga, and so on. As Marichi and others, he creates progeny. As the king, he punishes the miscreants, and in the form of time, he annihilates the creation. One may argue. Does anyone feel like arguing today? Do you want to argue? It says, one may argue, if the all-powerful Supreme Personality of Godhead can do anything simply by His will, why has He arranged for so many personalities to manage? How and why He does this cannot be understood by those who are under the clutches of Maya. But we know He's giving some service to His devotees. If you do everything yourself, it's like, there's nothing left for me to do. Yes. Because devotees want to render some service, but there's nothing to do. Like, it's like, that's what they want to do. Okay, so it is text 4 on the board, so text 1. Shri Rajavacha manvantareshu bhagavan yata manvadayas tvime yasmin karmani ye yena niyuktastad vadaswame. Maharaj Parikshit inquired, O most opulent Sukadeva Goswami, please explain to me how Manu and the others in each Manvantara are engaged in their respective duties and by whose order they are so engaged. 2. Sri Rishir Vacha, Manavo Manu Putrascha Munayascha Mahipate Indra Suraganashchaiva Sarve Purusha Sashanaha. Sukadeva Goswami said, the Manus, the sons of Manu, the great sages, the Indras, and all the demigods, O king, are appointed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his various incarnations, such as Jagya. Text 3. Jaggadayo ya katita paurushas tanavo nripa manvadayo jagan yatram nayantyabi prachoditaha. O king, I have already described to you various incarnations of the Lord, such as Jagya. The Manus and others are chosen by these incarnations under whose direction they conduct the universal affairs. Purport. The Manus execute the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his various incarnations. In today's verse. Chatur Yugante Kalina Grastan Chutri Ganan Yata Tapasa Rishayo Pasyan Yato Dharma Sanatana Chatur Yugante Kalina Grastan Churti Ganayata Tapasa Rishayo Pasyan Yato Dharma Sanatana Chatur Yugante Kalina Grastan Churti Gananyata Tapasa Rishayo Pasyan Yato Dharma Sanatana. Anyone like to chant? Chatur Kalena Tapasa Rishaya Pasyan Yato Dharman Sanatana Chatur Yugante Kalena Kastan Chuti Ganayata Tapasa Rishayo Pasyan Yato Dharman Sanatana. Any of our ethereal devotees in outer space, online?
Chatur Yugante Kalena
Chatur Yugante Kalena
Kastan Truti Gananyata
Kastan Chuti Ganayata
Tapasa Rishayo Pasyan
Tapasa Rishayo Pasyan
Yato Dharma Sanatana
Yato Dharma Sanatana
Chatur Yugante Kalena
Chatur Yugante Kalena
Rastan Churuti Gananyata
Krishnan Chuti Gananyata
Tapasa Rishayo Pasyan
Tapasa Rishayo Pasyan
Yato Dharma Sanatana
Yato Dharman Sanatana. So ever in the Bhagavatam it says, they heard an unembodied voice in the sky. That's what it's like. Chanting mantras or... Yeah, that's tapasa. Chatu Yuga Ante. At the end of every 4 yugas, Satya, Dwarpa, Treta, and Kali. Kalina, in due course of time. Grastan, lost. Shruti-ganan, the Vedic instruction. Yata, as. Tapasa, by austerity. Rishayaha, great saintly persons. Pasyan, by seeing misuse. Yataha, wherefrom. Dharmaha, occupational duties. Sanatanaha, eternal. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. At the end of every 4 yugas, the great saintly persons, upon seeing that the eternal occupational duties of mankind have been misused, re-establish the principles of religion. Purport. In this verse, the words dharma and sanatana are very important. Sanatana means eternal and dharma means occupational duties. From Satya Yuga to Kali Yuga, the principles of religion and occupational duty gradually deteriorate. In Satya Yuga, the religious principles are observed in full without deviation. In Treta Yuga, however, these principles are somewhat neglected, and only 3/4 of the religious principles continue. In Dwapara Yuga, only half of the religious principles continue, and in Kali Yuga, only 1/4 of the religious principles, which gradually disappear. At the end of Kali Yuga, the principles of religion or the occupational duties of humanity are almost lost. Indeed, in this Kali Yuga, we have passed only through only 5,000 years, yet the decline of Sanatana Dharma is very prominent. The duty of saintly persons, therefore, is to take up seriously the cause of Sanatana Dharma and try to reestablish it for the benefit of the entire human society. The Krishna conscious movement has been started according to this principle, as stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th canto, 3rd chapter, 51st verse. Kaler dosha nidhe rajan hastyeko mahan gunaha. Kirtanadeva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Brajat. The entire Kali Yuga is full of faults. It is like an unlimited ocean of faults. But the Krishna conscious movement is very authorized, therefore following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who 500 years ago inaugurated the movement of Sankirtan, Krishna Kirtan, we are trying to introduce this movement according to superior orders all over the world. Now, if the inaugurators of this movement strictly follow the regulative principles and spread this movement for the benefit of all human society, they will certainly usher in a new way of life by re-establishing Sanatana Dharma, the eternal occupational duties of humanity. The eternal occupational duty of the human being is to serve Krishna, Jivera Sarupa, Hoy, Krishnera Nitya Dasa. Madhya Lila 20:108. This is the purport of Sanatana Dharma. Sanatan means Nitya or eternal, and Krishnadas means servant of Krishna. The eternal occupational duty of the human being is to serve Krishna. This is a sum and substance of the Krishna consciousness movement. Om Agyantimirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshurunminitam Dinata Ismai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svabadandikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Banchikapataru Bhascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. So by your ardent prayers and best wishes and good luck, I'll try to say a few things. So you can ask Balaram as a manager. He'll confirm that things just keep falling apart, right? That's the nature of material energy. It's called the law of entropy. Everything just falls apart. Schedules fall apart, the building falls apart, toilets fall apart, kitchen falls apart. Sometimes people fall apart. They start crying and having a fit, right? Just everything in the material world is designed in such a way where it just keeps falling apart. But as servants of the Lord, we're meant to try to keep putting it back together, putting it back together. Why? For the service of the Lord. That's the devote. That's what's being brought up here, the Sanatana Dharma. Saintly persons understood that's the purpose of the material world. So the purpose of the material world is the dissemination of transcendental knowledge for the benefit, Prabhupada uses that word in the purport, for the benefit of human society, for the benefit of the living entities. We want to benefit them. The material world's a pretty miserable place. You say, well, where's the benefit? Just like a prison house is not so nice. Was that just recently something about someone being in prison in Thailand? It's a place you don't want to be in prison. There are some countries just south of the border, right? There are some countries where if you go to prison, it's like really bad. It's very bad. You know, there's no question of in our country, many of the prisons. I'm not speaking from experience. I've only been downtown in the prison, in the jail a few times from Harinam. But some of these long-term prisons and so on are actually quite nice. And they have TV and gyms and this and that and all kinds of stuff and like that. It's still prison, but the purpose of the prison is to punish offenders, those who break the law, in hopes to teach them not to do that anymore, not to teach them a lesson. There's a lesson to be learned. That's why you are thrown in prison. And there's a reason for it not being so nice. In fact, the Prabhupada many times would say the material world is jailhouse, schoolhouse. It's a jailhouse for those who are dead set against following the laws of the Lord. A schoolhouse means someone who's a little bit intelligent and they want to learn the lesson and get out. Like that. So those are, they call it incorrigible, is that the word? Incorrigible. You just no matter what you say, you just can't get them to change. It's just like that. So that's the material world, and therefore it says here, it is observed, and time is cyclical. So every 4 yugas, by the end of Kali Yuga, things are really, really bad. Prabhupada's pointing out, how long is Kali Yuga, Priya? Do you know? Do you know how many years, Priya? I'm not asking. Do you know? You know, familiar? Okay. How about you? Do you know how many years? Kali Yuga. Millions. That's a good one. Okay, Prabhu. Okay, well, up it a bit. Yes. 432,000. Yes, and we've been through 5,000 something or other. So we got 427,000 more to go, right? Thereabouts, give a few years. Prabhupada says, we've only gone through 5, and look how bad it is. In fact, I was just someone, I don't know who it was. Maybe it was Yoga Kishore, someone was bringing that up. That, and what's it going to be like? If it's this bad, you're okay, right? Do you have to stretch? Huh? You're copying him? Okay, you two stay after class. I'm going to have a little talk with you. This is not good. This is not good. It's not good. Okay, distracting everyone. 5,000 have gone by, and look how bad it is. Just keep going. 427,000 more to go. And I said, Yes, but that doesn't, not everyone's going to take advantage of it. And I said, well, you want to know how bad it gets, just read the 12th canto. There's a section there that gives some highlights of how bad it's pretty bad, very bad. And that's what's expected, because again, everything in the material world falls apart, disintegrates, denigrates, whatever the word is, it just falls. That's the nature of this world. And there's a reason for that, But at the end of Kali Yuga, it said here, the great saintly persons and the Lord himself, they renew everything, and that Satya Yuga begins again. It goes in cycles. And they reestablish the principles of religion. Even the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna makes this point. Evam parampara praptam rashavida sakalanaha mahata yoga nashta parantapa. So Krishna, he's saying, this is the chain of disciplic succession, I'm telling you, because the yoga, the Sanatana Dharma has been lost in due course of time. He says, in due course of time, it all gets lost, and you have to reestablish it, reboot it. That's just the nature of this world. So it should come as no surprise. What's important here, Prabhupada says in the very first line of the purport, is that the words Sanatana Dharma are very, very important because there's many different dharmas that we have. Duties, let's just call it that for now, duties. And some are real and some are imagined. And actually, from the spiritual point of view, every dharma in the material world is an imagined dharma because it has really nothing to do with the soul, but still we have our duties and our dharmas and so on. But there's Sanatana Dharma. That's the one thing that is always, it's part of the soul. And that's, as Prabhupada points out at the end of the purport, there's Jivera Surupoi Krishnera Nityadas. That's really who we are, and that's the most important dharma. All these other dharmas will come and go. People have their responsibilities. We have our responsibilities, I guess, first to our body, right? It's the dearest thing to us, so people take care of their body, right? And then you have, and that may expand, you take care of your family. And that may expand, you take care of your community or state or country or planet. Lord Brahma is taking care of a whole universe. You think you got problems, Balaram? He's got 4 heads, but still, he's got a whole he's got to take care of a universe. The headaches. He takes 4 aspirin, right? He's got 4 heads. So, all these different dharmas are there, and they're very, very important. But the Vedic literature is explaining, yes, these dharmas are important. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is making some argument that, I shouldn't fight. I have the dharma, I have to protect the people, and if I fight, all these men will die, and then all that's left is a bunch of, the women are unprotected, and all these different things, because he has the dharma, called Kshatriya dharma, to protect the citizens and make sure life is peaceful for people. And you have business dharma, and you have Sudra dharma, and you have all these different dharmas. And but the point is, Hare Krishna. He's doing pretty good. You just called him out of Bhagavatam class, though. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvam Dharma Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. All of these dharmas, sooner or later, it's all going to fall apart anyways. We have our dharmas, I remember I was at Prabhupada Das, Bhakti Nick. Remember Prabhupada Das? He had some children. Actually, I think he just had one daughter. Nice daughter. I did her wedding, actually. And but I remember him saying, you grow up and get a little older, and after a while, all you are is a card. You get a card for your birthday. As a father, something like that. You get a card. He's kind of like, in his South Philadelphian humor, he said, you just become a card, Or sometimes, you grow up and then your kids, the only time you hear from them is when they want some money. Dad, it's like Mahabharat. I'll give him an example because he told me this a few times, He was married before he came to the United States. Unfortunately, his wife didn't stay as a devotee, but very wonderful daughter, and her and Bhakti are actually very good friends. But he said when she calls, and this is years ago, she runs a pharmacy now and all that, but she would call, and he said he could tell from the tone of the voice what the call was about. He said, Dad, papito. He said, yeah, you want some money, right? Oh, yes. So you grow up, and that's what you will become. Oh, they send you a card once or twice a year. They want some money. All that work, hard work, dharma, and like that. And in society, you work so hard, you're a politician, and then you're not elected. Out. Like that. Even though or they shoot you. Prabhupada gives a classic example of Gandhi. He worked for decades for the independence of India, and someone came and just shot him. Like that. That's how they rewarded him. Like that. So these things happen. Or you are very, very popular as a sports figure or musician or actor, and then you become injured, you can't play sports anymore, you just disappear from the scene, or your voice goes off, people don't like your music anymore, you get too old to act. And that's it, bye. Bye. And every once in a while they dust you off for the what do you call it, Emmys or this or that, and just kind of like, there he is, practically half asleep in the audience. But at one time you were all these millions of women's heartbeat and this and that and all these different things, gone. So everything's going to be gone. So what's the real Dharma? That's Sanatana Dharma. That is what actually has to be disseminated in human society. And it's the responsibilities. The main purport is about how these are the responsibilities of devotees. And Prabhupada does point out that as the yugas go on, the religious principles become less and less and less and less. Now here's a question. What are the 4 basic principles of religion that are destroyed by meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, and gambling?
Truthfulness, mercy, and cleanliness.
Very good. You've redeemed yourself. Okay, yeah. Austerity. Okay. These are the pillars of religion, and it has nothing to do with a sectarian view of religion. Unless these things are there, a person is not religious. And unless these things are there, one has a very difficult time understanding spiritual truths. You just can't. You just can't focus, and you don't have the acumen or qualification at all. And these things just disintegrate. It says in Kali Yuga, truthfulness is the only thing that's left, and boy, it's going fast, like that. So it's going fast. So these things have to, the saintly persons, when they see all this, they, of course it says at the end, but why wait for the end? And Prabhupada's bringing that up in the purport here. The members of the Krishna conscious movement or any saintly person, they're very concerned, and they want to, for the benefit of people, for their benefit, because if people aren't following religious principles, they're following irreligious principles, and it creates havoc in society, complete havoc in society. Look, the proof is, look at the world today. Palina pariyachiyate, right? You judge something by the tree is judged by its fruit. You judge by the result. We don't need all of this, religion and so on. You can do whatever you want to do. Well, look what we've done. What's happened in the world today. So they want to reestablish religious principles. And in the age of Kali, which is an ocean of faults, there is one quality, eko mahan gunan. There's one unbelievably auspicious activity. What is that? Okay, you're in the hot seat. What do you think it is? What's the Yuga Dharma? I'm calling your wife. What's the Yuga Dharma? What's the process of self-realization in the age of Kali? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I'll give you a clue. See, chanting japa. That's it. Okay? Kirtanad eva Krishnasya. Chanting Krishna's name. Mukta Sangha Parambrajat. One can go back home, back to Godhead, become liberated. Even in this horrible, horrible age of Kali Yuga, which is ocean of faults. So Prabhupada said the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is established for this purpose. There's no other purpose except to spread Sanatana Dharma in the form of the chanting of the holy names. And in the inaugurators of this movement, if they strictly follow the regular principles, they can spread the movement all over the world because they have the spiritual strength. That's where it comes from. You see, you need the spiritual strength because I was just listening to one lecture, devotees were discussing this, that people, in fact, I don't know if you want to go. You're good at your Hindi? Okay. There's Professor so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so speaking Sapta, what do they call it? Bhagavat Saptaha at the Sri Mandir coming up soon. All in Hindi though, but he's Professor so-and-so, so-and-so from India. It is all in Hindi for 7 days. You can go there and see what he's saying, and you can challenge him if you like. That's bogus, you don't know. Or maybe he's good. I don't know. But that was his qualification, that he's a professor, not that he's a sadhu from Vrindavan or anything like that. In fact, he's from America somewhere. It's called the Go Cool Foundation or something like that. But, you know, maybe not him, but there are people who speak the Bhagavatam and they actually have no, it doesn't really affect people. That's why Prabhupada said this thing about the Bhagavat Saptaha. You come for 7 days, you hear, and then you go away and you haven't changed. Your heart hasn't changed. It's because the speaker has to be potent, Krishna consciousness. Then there's a transmission of Krishna consciousness from the heart of the devotee speaking to the listener. The listener has to be receptive and want to change, right? It's unfortunate people think that hearing these literatures or our spiritual activities, they're just for prosperity in the material world. They know it's a pious activity. So they say, let's do this and then we'll enjoy in the material world. They completely missed the point. Completely missed the point. So Prabhupada was saying that's the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement. Where are we on time? 29. I wanted to read two things. It came to mind as far as devotees and feeling compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. The first two verses of the Sri Sri Shad Goswami Astakam. Now the 6 Goswamis, intimate followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they are exemplary as far as what it is to be a devotee. Prabhupada even especially told the sannyasis to memorize these, what it means to be a sannyasi and fully renounced and fully engaged in devotional service. But every single devotee, man, woman, child, whatever position you're in, can understand what it means to be Krishna conscious by learning this song and reciting it. But there's two things that came out, one in each of the first 2 verses about the devotees of the Lord. And this the first one, Sri Chaitanya Kripa Barao Bhuvi Bhuvo Bara Vahantarako Bande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Sujiva Gopalako. So it's describing the activities of the 6 Goswamis. And of course, they're always hearing and chanting and always engaged in chanting the holy name of Krishna and dancing. They're just like the ocean of love of God, and they are popular both with the gentle and the ruffians because they're not envious of anyone. If you're not envious of anyone, just like Narada Muni, the demons actually welcome them all the time. He was not envious. They didn't see him as a threat at all. It says, whatever they do, they're all pleasing to everyone, and they are fully blessed by Lord Chaitanya. And here's the last line. Thus, they are engaged in missionary activities meant to deliver all the conditioned souls in the material universe. That's what devotees are doing. That's what their activities. They want to deliver all of this kripa baro, who are bearing the mercy, bhuvi in this world, bhuva of the world, bara the burden, avahantarako, who remove. So that's what devotees do. They try their best to remove the burden of ignorance in this material world. And the second one is one most familiar because devotees, we used to always chant this. We had Nectar Devotion class in the evening. The Nana Shastra Vicharanayika Nipano Sadharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Manyo Shananyakaro. That the 6 Goswamis, why did they take so much time to write these books? They're trying to get some bestsellers out there to make a little money. Right? People become authors and they think they can make a lot of money. No. They're very expert in scrutinizing and studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they're honored all over the 3 worlds, and they're worth taking shelter of because they're absorbed in the mood of the gopis, are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. So the same term that Prabhupada used in the purport, for the benefit of all human beings. So that's why they compiled the literature and established Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement for the benefit of the world. And by Prabhupada's grace and hard work, the teachings of the 6 Goswamis are now available all over the world. All over the world. So we should take advantage of it. But that's what devotees are very, very concerned about, is people are suffering. And why are they suffering? We have to be convinced, why are we suffering? Before you forget about everyone else. Just forget about it. How about you? Why are you suffering? Do you ever ask yourself that? Why am I suffering so much? Do you ever? Daily, right? Do you wake up asking yourself that question? Do you go to bed asking yourself that question? He has a rough life. Everyone be kind to Suresh. He wakes up suffering, goes, no, but it's true. If we don't think we're suffering, we're not going to really think anyone else is suffering. You know, it's like, but, oh my goodness, how much I'm suffering. The material world's a miserable place. I need to get out. I need to help other people get out. Like that. So, and that's what devotees do. And we have the medicine. Sometimes it's referred to as medicine. What's the Sanskrit for that? Aushita, right? The medicine of the holy name. This is the song by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jeev Jago. You have the medicine of the holy name. You know, it's there. Take the medicine. So we take the medicine, we feel cured, or we're being cured, so we know it works. Right? So you want to give it to others. You'll also be cured. So we can end here. Any questions or comments on the verse and purport and anything that's been said? Nothing controversial this morning. Yes, Dravida Prabhu.
To call attention to text 3 of this Gosvamastika, which is also about, I love this one, Anandambodhivardhanayaka Nipano Kaivalya Nistarako, that they're pouring forth the ocean, Anandambodhivardhanayaka, increasing the ocean of, expert increasing that ocean of Ananda, and saving the souls from the impersonalism, which is a big problem, that, you know, especially in this age. So each verse practically has that idea in it.
Yep. All glories to Srinivasacharya for writing this. Oh.
If someone's not free from envy, how is it that, or maybe you could explain more, them not being dear to ruffians and gentle, like how does that manifest if somebody's not free from envy?
Well, the point is, you're usually, envy means that, well, first of all, the basis is your own sense gratification. You're making plans for enjoying in this material world, and you divide everyone into friends and enemy. So right there. So if I know that going into my relationship with you, I know I'm either going to be a friend or enemy. But if you're non-envious, you just see everyone as servant of Krishna, dearmost friend. Automatically, you are a friend, a brother of that person because you have the same father. You know, whereas in the material world, the material consciousness is automatically, we're making this distinction, every single relationship. And some people we just don't like because they are a threat to our sense gratification to greater or lesser degrees. Unfortunately, that's how we categorize everyone in the material world. That's why Prahlad Maharaj didn't really want to go to school. So they're just teaching me all this politics, friends, enemies, you know, the dissent. You know, that you have to make that discrimination as a king, as a someone in charge. What's good, what's bad, who's, you know. But he didn't like that. He said, I just see everyone as God brother and God sister, as you know, eternal servant of the Lord. I can't relate to this, you know. This person's an enemy, this person's a friend, you got to keep him a friend, you got to bribe him, you got to do this, you got to do that. He said, all this is just, oh my goodness. It's so unreal, it's so painful. Why do we have to see people as friends and enemies? Why do we have to see people like that? That's so, you know, it's painful to me, it's painful to them. Why do we have to go through this? Oh, it's horrible. You know, just like hate. Just like we're seeing in the Middle East right now. The hate is so deep. You're born into a generation after generation. The Israelis hate it, all, you know, the other people, they hate the Israelis. And, you know, and I remember I mentioned this once. Many years ago, I heard there was a quote by Golda Meir. Remember her? That was back in the 70s. She said at one international conference that all of this fighting, the day it will stop is when we love our children more than we hate each other. And has it stopped? Nope. So you're actually born into it. Just because you are this nationality or this religion or this color You have to hate these other people. It goes even back to the Jets and the Sharks. Remember that? West Side Story. Gangs, right? You were in a gang, weren't you? You know? So that's, I mean, I've kind of went off on it, but so when someone is completely free from that, doesn't matter who, you know, just everyone actually, you just feel like, oh.
It's an interesting point about this you made in saying that people, they see each other as, you see another person, oh, he's a threat to my sense gratification. Now looking at the devotee world, how do we, because it's not that everyone's free from that, even in, you know, the devotee world. So how is it that devotees could see each other as threats to their sense gratification?
Okay. Well, because we're not free from it, and the cure is rendering service to the devotees. That's our culture, and through that service, you actually become free from malice or bad feelings towards a devotee. Are there any devotees you feel kind of bad about? Yeah, we all do. It's like, pfft. Then that's the devotee you should be serving the most. Because by serving that devotee, you actually become free from those negative thoughts and so on. So at least we have a way out. We know, oh yes, you just render service. And our life is daily rendering service to the devotees. And then especially when we have a difficult situation, you should always be trinadapi sunichena, humbled on the blade of grass, more taunted, and also rendering service to that devotee. That's the prescription. Yes. Right next to you. Right there. Your servant, he's serving you.
Hare Krishna. I remember an incident, this is going back in 1975, 50 years. And I was on my first trip to India. I was in the movement 2 years, you know, not very experienced. So we're on our way to Hyderabad from Mayapur. This was a detour. Prabhupada was going to speak there. The temple was like halfway built, and they were opening, so we went. So I'm on the train, you know, this train. And there was one devotee, I forget his name now, but he was an experienced Sankirtan devotee, you know. And I was, you know, a little tired and hungry and a little sick, you know, and so I was complaining. I meant some complaint about a devotee. You know, I said something about a devotee, not blasphemy or anything, just kind of negative. And he said, oh, you should be careful, never do that. Always try to glorify, you know, this is the service, but the devotee may be 100,000 miles away. But if you make it a point of glorifying the devotees whenever possible, you'll find your heart not, you know, kind of getting calloused and falling into that which is an offense, and you can ruin your whole devotional life that way. And I always took that very seriously. And I noticed over the years how a great practitioner of that is Radhanath Swami. He just loves to glorify devotees. I remember I was up in L.A., I forget how many years ago now, 25 years, and I spent at least more time. He was there giving class. And it was a class, wherever he was going and traveling, he was glorifying this one devotee who had disappeared, one of his disciples in Chowpatty. I forget his name also. But he was an older man. He had taken initiation in Pakistan, in the Dhaka from Kirtananda, and then so he got reinitiated, came to Chowpatty. And he was describing his qualities. I was in the audience, and this was when I was writing all my poetry, you know. And as he was describing his devotee, he said, oh, that just fits the little poem I'm trying to write, you know. So this devotee, he was an older man, Indian, and he would take care of all the brahmacharis, make sure they got enough prasadam when they came back, you know, take care of them, you know, and encourage them. And he was always singing songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, you know. So he was very blissful and disappeared. A beloved devotee, obviously. So, and so the poem I was writing was of this verse, from the Pajavali. I was really into Pajavali at the time. Aho bir nakade viduyade sudha sudhara modadam pade bade dine dine chandana chandra shitalam yasho yashoratana yasigiyate. for those who spend their day, I forget the poem. For those who spend their days glorifying Krishna, it's as if the blazing fire of the Kali Yuga has never begun. In other words, they don't feel that, you see. And they simply are glorifying and flowing, and whoever associates them also is uplifted. That's the whole idea. And this verse perfectly describes that devotee. And later on, when I went to Vrindavan and doing Kartik, Maharaj was there, and they were going to do the thing of pouring the ashes into the Yamuna. I couldn't be there as I had a meeting with the BBT, but I said, Maharaj, please chant this verse. It perfectly describes the devotee, you know. And I think he did it at the ceremony. So that's one prophylactic, if you will, for getting into this mood of he's my enemy, my friend amongst devotees. Just try to glorify devotees. Always glorify Krishna, glorify his devotees. That's what this ashtaka is a glorifying of the six Goswamis, and then you can be protected from falling into that mode of criticism and like that, which can ruin your devotional life.
Very good point. Because you see sometimes in the material world, people glorify each other, but it's really just to endear yourself to that person for favors. Or just because they give you some sense gratification. Wow, that person's a really good this or that or whatever. But, did you see that home run he made? It's just all just your own personal sense gratification and so on. And then when they don't make the home run, it's like, right? Then they lose the game, people go nuts, I have my son-in-law's like that. He's real into sports, and some Padres lose a game. The guy has a bad day. He's like in a bad mood. It's like it's just some baseball game, But it's like, bah, bah. Fortunately, he doesn't like punch holes in the wall like some people do, or they riot like in these games, the soccer games and so on. It's like, what's that all about? So a very good point. Our culture is just you're always glorifying the wonderful qualities of it, like honeybees, always like honeybees, right? Instead of like a fly. Like that. So on that ecstatic note, we can end class. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.